Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We're continuing on Masechet Avodah Zarah, and we're on the bottom of Daf Bet Amud Aleph. Today's Amud is being learned for Zchut of Yeshua ben Dina Diana and Yael bat Rivka. Today's Amud is also being learned Leilui Nishmat Sipora bat Yitzchak, and for the Hatzlacha of Menashe ben Asi. We are starting a very interesting piece of Agata. We spoke about the fact that the Mishnah speaks of doing business before the so-called holidays of the Avodah Zarah. And the Gemara asked, why do you call it Yom Edam? And we had different psukim, and the pasuk in Yeshaya in Perek Mem Gimal really has a ending which the Gemara now picked up for the agatas that we are starting. Kol hagoyim nikbetzu yachtav, that all the goyim are going to be gathered, and all of the nation v'yasfu leumim mi bahem yagid zot. And the Gemara says this is talking about the end of days when you have HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving schar for people who have learned Torah, who have been involved with supporting Torah, and all of the goyim now come and they want to demand schar of Torah. So the Gemara says, miyad, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu grabs the Torah in his arms and says, whoever has learned Torah and has done the Torah, come and get the schar, all of the goyim come running. So first of all, you see what the Gemara says, like in the beginning of the Chumash says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, and the Midrash says, Bet Reshit b'shvil Yisrael shenikru. Reshit b'shvil HaTorah shenikret Reshit. The world was created because of the Torah, and the world stands because of Torah. Im lo beriti yomam v'layla chukot shamayim v'haaretz lo samti. If it wasn't because of Torah, says Hashem, the world would go back to tohu vavohu. The zchut of the Torah is what establishes the recreation of the world every day. The world is standing every moment. Is a recreation of Maaseh Bereshit, and that hinges on the zchut of Torah. So Hashem says, whoever has done it, come get your schar. And it says the Gemara, all of the goyim come running to get schar for the Torah. So says the Gemara, Miyat mitkabesinu ba'in ovdei kuchavim. This is 2 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Be'irvuvia, all of them come in a big mix. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't enter in front of me in a mix. You have to be organized in one by one. Al tikanesu lefanai be'irvuvia, ela tikanes kol uma ve'uma ve'sofrea. Every nation and their chachamim should come separately, one after the other. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, after the beginning it says, the pasuk starts saying, Kol goyim nikbesu yachdav. They all come together, which means be'irvuviyah, they came in a big mix. But then v'yasfu leumim. But then the nations, they separately gathered together. So that's because the Gemara is explaining step by step the pasuk. They first came all be'irvuviyah, all of them together as a bunch. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, no, gather together as nations, and then come one at a time. Ve'asvu leumim ve'en le'om ela malchut. Le'om means a nation. Le'om means a government. So every government alone should gather together. The separation of this whole bunch that was there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them, separate, become, groups of nations. Rome by itself, Paras by itself, Bavel by itself, Yavan by itself. Every nation should be together, and they will be judged one by one. So says the Gemara, how do you know that Le'om means Malchut? Because the pasuk says, Ule'om mi le'om ye'ematz. When the mother of the twins had the prophetic translation of her conflicted pregnancy. When Rivka Imenu was pregnant by Yaakov and Esav, and she was conflicted, what's going on inside? And the Yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever told her, Shnei leumim bebitnech. You have Shnei goyim bebitnech, or Shnei leumim mima'ayich yiparedu. That you have two nations, two malchuyot, two different governments coming from the two children that you have. You're going to have twins. And it will be a struggle of power between the two governments, between the two malchuyot. So says the Gemara, you see from here that le'om means malchut, a government. Says the Gemara, it says, since when HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about people being mixed? Well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't judge different nations because they are mixed into each other. We all know the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Zayin, Daf Yud Chet, really the Gemara there says that Kulan Niskarin Biskira Achat. That all of the Ba'e Olam, Kol Ba'e Olam, Ovrin Lefanav Kivne Meron, says the Gemara in Yud Zayin over there. And then later on the Gemara says in Yud Chet, Kulan Niskarin Biskira Achat. All of the nations, all of the people in the world, they are judged instantly in one shot. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no problem judging people all at once, even with their mixtures. So what do you mean HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to separate them for, the nations have to stand separately and come separately? What's the problem? Just judge them as they come in the mix. The Gemara says, correct, Hashem has no problem. The problem is not for Hashem. The problem is for them, because if they come in a mix and everyone talks, then you forget your arguments. It's much more organized when every nation comes by itself and they get a time of their life to argue their case and be comfortable to be able to be judged properly, given the opportunity that they need to argue their case. That's why Hashem separates them, for their benefit, not for His need. He would be able to judge them just fine, even in a mix. So says the Gemara, Miyad Nichnesa lefanav Malchut Romi. Immediately Malchut Romi, the Roman Empire, comes in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, Roman Empire now would be the Western civilization that stemmed from Yavan, really started from the Greek culture, and it was developed by the Romans, and that became the bedrock of the Western civilization. We, generally speaking, refer to it as Esav, right? As the Kochot of Esav. The Vilna Gaon writes that even though that they may not be, when he talks about the 70 bulls that he will bring, the 35 and 35 is the Kochot of Esav and Ishmael, the Vilna Gaon writes that this is, even though that they are not biologically related necessarily to Esav, biologically related necessarily to Ishmael, but this is their koach in the world, their continuation in the world. So therefore, this we're talking about Rome and its extensions. Rome comes in first. So says the Gemara, my Tama, why would Rome be first? Well, in the Galuyot, Rome is last, really. It's the last galut. It's the current galut of Klal Yisrael. So why is Rome first? My time, mishum de chashiva, because Rome is important. Now we are going to discuss a little more why Rome is important later in the Gemara. But the Gemara is going to initially ask, why is it the most important? Umelan de chashiva. How do we know that's important? Dichtiv. Vatochal kol ar'a otedushuneh. This is a nevuah, a vision of Daniel. Daniel had in Sefer Daniel, there are two places that he had prophetic visions of the 4 stages of Galut that we're going to experience. The first one is in Perek Zayin, the second one is in Perek Yud Bet of Sefer Daniel. This is the first one. The first one says, basically, he saw 4 different animals. This is the vision that he had, exemplified every one of the Malchuyot like an animal. And it talks about the Babel, the Babylonia, Paras, Yavan, and then when he talks about the fourth one, he says, Ken Amar Chavyata Revi'ah Malchu Revi'ah Tehe Bar'a. It's going to be the fourth Malchut that's going to be on earth. And this is changed and different than all the other governments before. V'techol kol ara is going to consume the entire earth. Utdushineh, and it's going to destroy it, and it's going to basically ground it up. It's going to be the strongest one. And also he says, which is going to relate to the next answer, next stage of the Gemara, why Paras and Edom and Rome are the most important, is that it says, I saw it go up and not come down. Each one of them, it says, I saw it go up, and it stays up there, and the next animal comes and destroys the previous one. But this one goes up and stays there, and it was the Emtani says the Pasuk was the most scary of all of the four. So it says, the Gemara, that's how you know it is important. So it says, the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Zur Romi Chayevet, this is the wicked Rome, Shetiv'a Yatza Bechol HaOlam, that their name and fame spread throughout the world. Umenalan, the man de Chashiv Ayil Beresha, and who says that just because they are more important, they should come first in the judgment of Hashem? Keder Rav Chisda. That we learn from the Memra, from the teaching of Rav Chisda Damar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, this is the Gemara, several places in Masachet Rosh Hashanah, in the very beginning, Daf Chet, Daf Tetzayin, the Gemara there says, in the name of Rav Chisda, Melech ve'sibur, Melech nichnas techila ledin. When you have a king and the nation, the king is judged first. Why is the king judged first? Says Rav Chisda, you learn this from the Pasuk, Shenema la'asod mishpat avdo mishpat amo Yisrael, because the Pasuk says, la'asod mishpat avdo talks about the king first, and then amo, then the nation. And what's the reason? Mai ta'ama, v'tama mai, ibait ema lav orach ar'a. One reason is because not derech eretz, is not proper conduct to have the king wait outside while you judge the people. It's not derech eretz. He has to come first. But says the Gemara, there's an essential reason as well. The other reason is, before HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be angry with the sins of the nation, we want to judge the king. In other words, the king is responsible for everything that the nation do, right? He has the power, like Yoshiyahu HaMelech said. What did Yoshiyahu HaMelech say? Yoshiyahu HaMelech was a kid. When he became the king, he was still a young boy, and they found a Sefer Torah when they were looking in the storage houses of the Beit HaMikdash. They found the Sefer Torah, perhaps the one of the 13 that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, and it was open to Parashat Kelalot. It was open to the parasha of Arurim, Arur asher lo yakim et divrei Sefer HaTorah azot. The curse shall be the one that does not establish the words of the Torah. And when they read this, Yoshiyahu Melech was the king. He got up from his throne, he ripped his clothes, and says, Alai lakim, it's on me to do it, because he's the king. He had the power of enforcement, and he did that. When you have Chizkiyahu Melech Yarshin, he inherited a community of the Avodah Zarah. The entire country was serving the Avodah Zarah of Baal and Asherah. It was a horrible situation. And he turned the tie on everyone. He created a nation, a country that from Dan at Beersheva, they checked from one end of Eretz Yisrael to the other end, and there was not a tinok v'tinoket, there wasn't a little kid even that didn't know the most complex parts of the Torah. So you see, the king is responsible. Now what happens if all the nation are doing sins? Well, they get a negative credit, and the king gets a negative credit. So if you judge them first, then oy vavoy for the king. It's going to be Charon Af and it's going to be judged. He's going to be judged differently, perhaps with a different lens. If he comes afterwards, is better. It's midat chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to judge the government first when things are calmer on the other people. It's not. The things are not written on the king's account, so to speak. So this way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets to judge the totality of the nation more favorably because the king has been judged more favorably. So says the Gemara, that's the second reason why the king comes first. So says the Gemara now, Amar Lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem is now judging. Remember how the judgment works. Hashem is holding the Torah in his arms, and it says, whoever has done this, get the schar. There is no other schar. The schar of the world is the schar of the Torah. So Hashem says, okay, what did you do? Tell me. Speak. And the Rom says, Omrim lefanav, Ribono shel olam, harbe shvakim tikanu, we made so many marketplaces. Harbe merchatzaot asinu, so many public bathhouses and advanced systems. Harbe kesef vezahav yirbinu, we created a financial revolution, right? Industrial revolution. Tremendous things we did. And you know, vekulam lo asinu ela bishvil Israel. We did all of it for the Jews. Why? Kedeshit asku b'Torah, that they should be able to learn more Torah. So you see, we get credit for this, right? We are indirectly, by extension, developing Torah in the world. Amazing. So we should get schar. Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shotim sheba'olam, you crazy people. Kol ma she'asitem lesorech atzmechem asitem. Everything that you did for yourselves. Your kavanah was not for this. Tikantem shvakim lo'oshir ba'en zonot. You did all these malls and other things in order to create more promiscuity and develop your desires in the world. Like the Gemara says, even the other sins that the people did, of the Avodah Zarah, lo avdu Avodah Zarah ela la'atir la'hem et ha'arayot. The driving force was arayot. Now, they also did business, but says the Gemara, your final thing was to indulge yourselves. That was the kavanah. Le'aden ba'em atzmechem, milchatzaot that you did, le'aden ba'em atzmechem. It was because you want to indulge and enjoy your life. Kesef v'zahav, and you say you created an economy, a flourishing economy. That's my hand. Liya kesef v'li hazahav. It says kesef v'zahav is shelihu. Shenemar liya kesef v'li hazahav. Hashem says that is the hatzlacha that you had was a direct outcome of me wanting you to have the hatzlacha that you had. It's not in your hands. Now the question is, by the way, why does he say? The question everyone asks, why doesn't it say shakranim sheba'olam? The Ben Ish Chai deals with this. Why is it not sheker? It says shotim sheba'olam. Not that you're liars. And also the Ben Ish Chai says, how dare they stand in front of Hashem, look him in the eye and say such shkarim? So one of the famous answers is the Brisker Rav on the Chumash. Brisker Rav writes, Latid Lavo will be clear that anything and everything that happens in advancements of the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is governing it from up above in order to, bring forth the power of the Torah and the perfection of the world the way it has to be. The Ramchal explains this also in a more complicated way. He says there are two different parallel Hanhagot in the world. One of them we call Hanhagat Schar Va'onesh. That's a direct outcome of what you do. You get schar, you get onesh. That's more immediate. But then you have an underlying hanagav Hashem beneath the surface that you don't see where it's going, but in a bigger picture, the bird's eye view of the world, that is the hanhaga that brings the whole world to perfection. He calls that hanhagat gilui yichud. So Hashem is moving things behind the scene and beyond our comprehension and understanding. And when you look up, when you're down from up above, at the end of all times, you see, wow, this that happened was because of Torah. The other thing that happened was because of Torah. Everything that happened, we, the Romans, were doing this. We didn't realize that we were part of this massive puzzle of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So they say, well, look, it's now clear that what we did was for Sorech Torah. So it's not sheker. It's not sheker that everything that they did was because of Torah. It is emet. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you shotim, you crazy people. You think that you could get credit for my Hanagat Gilu Yichud. You didn't have any kavanah. You don't get credit for something. Mitzvot tzrichot kavanah. You need kavanah in order to have a credit in the schar of the mitzvot. Here, you were pawns going through this big scheme of things in a larger scale when things were coming together as Hanagat Gilu Yichud. Again, he doesn't say it like that to prescribe, but that is the idea. Says the Gemara, Klum yesh bachem magid zot. Hashem says, all the things that you did, even though that indirectly was benefiting the Torah, was nothing. Because your kavanah was not Torah. Do you have any real zchut of Torah? Can you say a shtickle Torah? Can you say a piece of Torah? Did you learn anything? Did you do any of the mitzvot? Says the Gemara, Mi bachem yagid zot ve'en zot ela Torah. Again, the Gemara is going one by one through the parts of the pasuk. The pasuk says all of the nations are going to get together, ask for kol umim, and then mi yesh bachem yagid zot. The pasuk says mi bahem yagid zot. Who from within them is going to be able to tell this? What's this? En zot ela Torah. This is a reference to Torah. How do you know that? ואין זאת אלא תורה שנאמר וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. זאת is a reference to the Torah. מיד יצאו בפחי נפש. They went out from in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's judgment בפחי נפש, disappointed. They didn't get anything. יצאת מלכות רומי ונכנסה מלכות פרס. Who comes next? The amazing Persians. The amazing Persians come second, in second place. Now, this is in Persian Gemarot. Well, Talmud Bavli really is Persia, because Bavel back then was Persia of today, was part of Bavel of back then when the Talmud was written. So Talmud Bavli is really the Persian Gemara, but this is the part that they wanted to censor because of the following Gemara. It says, Umenalan, how do you know that they're chashuv? Because the Gemara says, "My tama." What's the reason that they are second? The chashiva, because they are the second most important after Romans. The chashiva batra. After Romans, they are the ones that are chashuv. Umenalan, how do you know? Dichtiv, the pasuk says, "Ve'aru chavya acharai." The second animal, the second malchut that the vision of Daniel included was Damya ledov. It was this beast that looked like a dove, looked like a bear. Vetani Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef taught, what nation is this referring to? Elu Parsim. This is the dear Persians. She'ochlim ve'shotin kedov. Now you understand why they want to censor this, because they eat and drink like a bear. Umesurbalim basar, they are overweight like a bear. Umegadelin se'ar kedov, and they're hairy like a dove, right? By the way, the Gemara says in Masechet Brachot, we had this in Daf Chet, says the Persians are snuim ba'achilatam. The Gemara actually all over the place, aside from this place, praises the Persians in many different ways. One of them is this, that even in their achilah v'shtiyah, the Gemara in the Brachot Daf Chet says they're tzanua. They're very modest in the way they do it, but apparently they overeat, right? Whatever this Gemara means, it's the Persians, they have the similarity to the dove. But here's the last part. And they don't sit still like a dove. They're always doing something. Now, Rabbi David Alav Shalom used to say this Gemara all the time. when he built Torah all around the globe. Mamash, when in Soviet Union, before the Iron Curtain fell down, he had 10 kolelim. Not 10 kollel guys, 10 kolelim. He built an entire thing in Argentina, all around the world, in Eretz Israel, in Los Angeles, in New York, in Baltimore. He had a hand in building Torah all over the world. Rav Shach, who he was very close with, he learned in Panovich, it's a story of itself. He said to somebody that he is the greatest Mezakeh Arabim in the world. Rav Shach said this. So somebody asks, how do you do this? He says, because I'm Persian. The Persians, the Gemara says, are like Elahem menucha kadov. They never sit still. You always have to be doing something. So this Gemara, everyone reads it and kind of like can't wait until it finishes. But there's a good part of it. Elahem menucha kadov. They don't have menucha. Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'ma yasaktem. So Hashem says, okay, Persians, b'ma yasaktem. What did you do? They say, well, we owned Beverly Hills and North Beverly Hills and the flats of Beverly Hills and the Bel Air and all the businesses of downtown and all of that, right? That's what they would answer. They said, we built so many bridges, we conquered so many countries, we did so many, we waged so many wars. All of it we did because of the Jews, right? In order they should be learning Torah with menuchat nefesh. Amar lahem, Hashem says to them, again, you're the crazy people. Everything you did for yourselves. You were thinking of money the whole time, not Torah. You built the bridges because you wanted more money. Same thing with all of the countries and cities that you conquered. And then it says milchamot. You think you won wars? Ani asiti. I win the wars, not you. Shenemar Hashem ish milchama. Hashem is the man of war. Do you have any zchut of Torah? Did you learn Torah? This, again, the Persian goyim. Shenemar, as it says, mi bachem yagid zot. Ve'en zot ela Torah. Same argument as the Romans. There is nothing but Torah. Zot ha-Torah. Asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Israel miyad yas'u milefanav bepachei nefesh. They also went out disappointed and failed. So the Gemara asks the simple question. He says, wait a second. V'chi me'achar dechazit the Malchut Paras the Malchut Romi. When the Persian Empire saw the Roman Empire make the same argument, and Hashem said, you shotim sheba'olam, you crazy people. Why are they saying the same thing? You saw what they argued and they failed. The lo mehanya, it didn't work. My tama, why did they even attempt the same argument? So what I say is simple. Amri inhu satri bet hamikdash ve'anan baninan. They thought to themselves, well, Romans, what did they do? They destroyed the second Bet HaMikdash. Us, we built the second Bet HaMikdash. Like Dariavesh, Koresh, they not just allowed it, but they financed the entire project of the building of the Bet HaMikdash. So that's a tremendous zchut.
That wasn't part of their argument.
Well, there wasn't, but it doesn't need to be, because the final argument is that we share the zchut of the Torah. Because you see, what we did was very helpful to the Torah. So part of it is everything that we did. So now, once we did this, all of the generations of the Persians, they don't have the chiyuv, they don't have the negativity of the Romans who destroyed the Torah. So it was clear that they did not want the good of the Jews. By us, it wasn't so clear. We actually helped the cause of the Jews. So even though that was only Dariavesh, that was only the Koresh, wasn't the whole government, but we were good people. And says the Gemara, By the way, why is it not a zchut for them? Because the Gemara in Yuma Daf Yud says that they destroyed Batei Knesset. Right? So subsequent generations. So you see, aside from the fact that you see the kavod of the Bet Knesset and so on and so forth, there's what to be spoken about this Gemara, why their ta'ana, their argument really is not a binding argument, but nevertheless, the difference would be because they destroyed the Bet HaMikdash, we built the Bet HaMikdash, so therefore they thought they would have a shot at this, they would have a chance, and they failed. Says the Gemara, V'chen l'chol umah ve'umah. Same would be after these two, all of the umot that they came up. The other nations, when they saw these two empires, the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, come up and fail, why would they even try? Why did they go up? They said, well, at least these two empires, they took the Jews in captivity. So that's a negative thing. We didn't necessarily take them to captivity. We did business with them. We helped them. Everything was made in China, right? And even though that they broke after one use, but at the end of the day, all the Jewish appliances, we did things that helped their life. So maybe we have a chance at it. We didn't take them to captivity, so maybe we will have a chance. And says Gemara, that's why they attempted. And what's the reason the Persians and Romans are more important? In other words, even in the Nevuah of Daniel, there were 4 empires. There was the Babylonian Empire, there was the Greek Empire, and there was the Persians and the Romans, of course. But why these 2 are more important than all the other ones, says the Gemara, what's the difference between these 2 that are chashuv, the other ones that are not? The Gemara already 2,500 years ago says, you know why? Because the Persians and the Romans are going to be there standing as important figures in the world until the time of Mashiach. So their importance is not just because of what they did, but because of the essence of the Persians. The Midrash says the Persians have 3 different elements of Malchut that was given to them. 2 of them have happened already, and one of them is going to be the Malchut that's going to be given to them, the power that's going to be given to them in the time of Mashiach. The Yalkut Shimoni also says that actually the last struggle of the world will be with the Persian Malchut of Paras. That's going to be a king that's going to stand up and the whole world is going to be scared of him, and so on. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu calms the nerves of Bnei Yisrael, says, don't worry, my children, everything that I didn't do but because of you. And so on, a beautiful prophetic midrash about the end of days and the empire of Paras. But the Gemara already says this clearly, that they're going to be standing in the time of Mashiach, and therefore, hence the importance of the government of Persia and the government of Rome. These 2 are going to be major players, not just in their time, in the time of Tanakh, but also in the time of end of days, in the time of Mashiach. So says the Gemara, the nations now argue back and says, Hashem, if you would have given us the Torah, we would accept it also. Well, did you give it to us and we didn't accept it? The Gemara says, wait a second, they can't say that. And they argue such a thing. Hashem did offer it to them. And the pasuk, doesn't the pasuk say, "Vayomer Hashem miSinai ba"? Hashem came from Har Sinai. Ve'zarach miSeir lamo. Hofia mehar Paran ve'ata merivavot kodesh. Hashem came from Sinai. He came from Seir. He came from different nations. Uchtiv and pasuk and elsewhere, Eloah miteman yavo. So Hashem went around the nations to offer them the Torah. My ba'i b'seir. What does Hashem want in Har Seir? That's the place of Esav. Umay ba'i beParan. What does He want in Har Paran? Amar Rabbi Yochanan melamed shehechzira HaKadosh Baruch Hu al kol umah v'umah. Hashem went around offering the Torah to all of the nations. Kol umah ve'lashon ve'lo kibeduah. They did not accept the Torah. At Sheba Etzel Israel, until he came to Am Israel, and they said Naaseh v'nishma, they accepted it excitingly. They said Naaseh v'nishma. So Hashem offered it to them. What do you mean? How can they argue in front of Hashem? If you would have given it to us, we would have accepted it. He did give it to you, you didn't accept it. We all know the Gemara. My ktiv be, what does it say in the Torah? It says lo tirtzach, it says lo tinaf, it says lo tignov, and they say we don't want it. We know the Gemara. So Hashem did offer it to them. They can't say that. So that's not the argument. Ella, hachi amri. This is what they say. Kelum kibalnuha velo kiyamnuha. Did we accept it and not do it? If we would have accepted the Torah, we would do the Torah much better than the Jews even. Much better than the Jews. The Gemara says that's an argument. It's like saying, well, if I would be part of Amud Yomi, I would come every single day. I would not miss a day. That's an argument. So you know there's Amud Yomi. If you don't come to Amud Yomi to sign up, it's even a worse thing. You know that the Torah is there, you didn't accept it. You can't say, well, if I would have accepted it, I would have done it better than the Jews. You didn't accept it, that by itself is the worst thing that you did, says the Gemara. Al data bar tehon, this is their breakage is going to be coming from this. Amai lo kibaltua, why didn't you accept it? You knew that it existed. Elakach omrim, this is their final argument. Kelum kafita alenu har kigigit v'lo kibalnua. Did you force us to accept the Torah just like you forced the Jews to accept the Torah? Now this is a segue to an amazing argument and a talk that we're going to have in next year of what does it mean that Hashem forced the Jews to accept the Torah? Did he really force them? And what's going to be the argument of the Umot HaOlam, and what's going to be the answer of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is something that we will, Bezrat Hashem, learn in the future shiurim.